Let me tell you my story about growing up as the overlooked child in my family. My name is Ida. My older sister, Teresa, is 3 years older than me and always got all the attention from our parents. It felt like she was their only child. Whenever there was something new, a phone, shoes, or a laptop, Teresa got it first. When she didn't need it anymore, it became mine. Our family wasn't poor. My parents just didn't think about what I needed. My grandmother, my mom's mother, was the only one who noticed how unfair this was. Every time she visited, she would look at my old clothes and hand-me-downs and frown. Then she'd quietly give me an envelope with some money inside. Buy yourself something nice, she'd say, something that's just yours. Grandma wasn't just rich, she actually cared. Unlike my parents, she asked me about school, my friends, and what I liked to do. The normal things parents usually ask, but mine didn't. By the time I turned 16, I was tired of being invisible. I was sick of wearing Teresa's old clothes and feeling like a ghost in my own house. So I got a part-time job at a cafe. It wasn't fancy. I took orders, worked the register, and cleaned up, but I felt proud because I earned my own money. It was all mine, not Teresa's leftovers. Working made me feel strong and independent. I could buy my own things, and they really belonged to me. Grandma saw this change in me. She often came to the cafe and smiled at me as she drank her coffee. She was proud that I was doing things on my own. When Teresa turned 19, my parents threw her a huge birthday party. They rented a fancy place, got expensive food, and invited lots of relatives. I spent the whole morning helping set everything up. That night, Teresa wore a brand new dress and looked like a princess. I stood in the back, wearing my nicest hand-me-down, trying not to be seen. The biggest moment came when my dad made a toast. He talked about how amazing Teresa was and how proud they were of her. Then he shared the big news. Teresa was going to Preston University, a fancy private college that costs a fortune. Everyone clapped and cheered. Then Grandma stood up. She looked serious, and I knew she was about to say something big. "That's wonderful," she said, "but tell me, did you save money for Ida's college too?" The room went silent. My parents looked embarrassed and avoided eye contact. "Oh, well, there's still time," my mom said weakly. "Ida's still in high school." But Grandma didn't let it go. "That's not what I asked, Sandra," she said. My mom tried to sound casual. "Honestly, Ida's not really college material like Teresa. Her grades aren't as good. She'll probably keep working at the cafe after school." That hurt, but before I could say anything, Grandma pulled out my report card from her purse. It showed straight A's and an A+ in chemistry. "These grades don't look bad to me," she said loudly, holding it up. "You'd know this if you ever asked her about school." Everyone stared at my parents. They were speechless. "We didn't know," my dad mumbled. "Exactly," Grandma snapped. "You don't know because you're too busy focusing on Teresa to see your other daughter." My mom tried to say something, but Grandma kept going. "Tell me, why didn't you save for Ida's college? And don't lie to me." Finally, my dad admitted, "We spent it all on Teresa's tuition." People in the room gasped. I wished I could disappear, but Grandma wasn't done. "So you left nothing for your other daughter?" she said. "Fine, I'll pay for Ida's college myself, every penny, because I'm the only one here who treats both girls equally." I didn't know whether to feel happy or embarrassed. Teresa just stared at her cake. After that party, our house felt cold. My parents acted like I had made Grandma do that on purpose. They barely talked to me and gave me cold looks. That fall, Teresa went off to Preston University. When she left, the house felt even emptier. My parents hardly spoke to me. When they did, they looked ashamed and annoyed at the same time. I kept working at the cafe and got good grades. When I graduated high school, I got into State University. It wasn't as fancy as Preston, but for me, it was my way out. Grandma was so happy when I showed her my acceptance letter. My parents just said, "Congratulations," and gave me a card. Then they went back to talking about Teresa. College was my safe place. I stayed in the dorms and spent breaks with Grandma. Sometimes I visited my parents, but those visits were awkward. They always talked about Teresa, her grades, her job, her boyfriend Gabriel, who came from a rich family. They never asked me about my life. Grandma did. When we were alone, she'd ask, "How are your classes?" I'd tell her everything, and she really listened. After college, I got a good job at a marketing firm. I had my own place and good pay. I was proud of myself. My parents still didn't care much. They just bragged about Teresa. When Teresa got married, my parents went all out. They paid for a fancy wedding at a mansion with gardens, a string quartet, expensive food, and even an ice sculpture. They took out a $500,000 loan to pay for it. I didn't say anything. I just supported my sister and tried to be happy for her. Teresa looked beautiful, and her husband Gabriel seemed nice. A few years later, it was my turn. Connor, my boyfriend, proposed. We planned a small engagement dinner at my favorite restaurant. Grandma came too. During dinner, Grandma stood up. She looked at my parents and said, "Sandra, Jefferson, you gave Teresa such a beautiful wedding. I hope you're planning the same for Ida." Suddenly, the room went quiet. My parents looked uncomfortable. My mom forced a smile and said, "Of course, we want both our daughters to have beautiful weddings." To avoid the awkward silence after Grandma's comment, I quickly changed the subject, but what she said stayed with everyone. A few days later, my mom asked me to come over to talk about the wedding. I didn't really want to, but I went alone, even though Connor offered to come with me. At dinner, my mom excitedly asked what kind of wedding I wanted. I told her that Connor and I wanted something small and simple, just about 70 guests, and that we had saved $33,000 to pay for it ourselves. My mom looked shocked when she heard that. "That's not enough." "Absolutely not," she said firmly. "We'll pay for everything, just like we did for Teresa's wedding. Don't worry about the money, plan it however you like." I was surprised. After all those years of feeling ignored, my parents suddenly wanted to pay for a big, fancy wedding for me too. It felt strange, but part of me really hoped this meant they had finally changed. Maybe Grandma's words had finally made a difference. The wedding was beautiful. We got married at a pretty lakeside resort. The flowers, food, and decorations were perfect. Everyone looked happy, and for once my parents seemed truly proud of me. I hoped maybe this meant things would finally be better between us. During the party, Grandma hugged me and said, "This is exactly what you deserve, sweetheart. I'm so glad your parents did this for you." She even thanked my parents for throwing such a wonderful wedding. Connor and I left for our honeymoon in Hawaii feeling like everything was finally okay. But reality hit us hard when we got back. As I was unpacking, I saw an email from my mom titled "Wedding Expenses." I thought it was just a list of what they spent, but when I opened it, my heart dropped. There was a bill for $165,000 and a note from my mom that said, "We trust you'll handle this soon. Payment details attached." My hands were shaking. I called Connor over. When he read the email, he looked shocked too. "They can't be serious. They said they would pay for it," he said, but I could tell he wasn't sure. It wasn't a mistake. They really wanted us to pay. That night, Connor and I sat staring at our bank accounts. We had saved that money for a down payment on our first house. "We have enough to pay it," I said quietly. Connor suggested we talk to my parents, but deep down I knew the truth. They never really changed. They waited until after the wedding to pull this on me. With a heavy heart, I wrote the check for $165,000. As I sealed the envelope, I felt both betrayed and strangely clear inside. "I'm done," I told Connor as we dropped the check in the mailbox. "I'm done trying. I'm done hoping they'll change." "Should we tell your grandma?" Connor asked gently. "No," I said. "She was so happy at the wedding. I can't ruin that for her." I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about all the signs I'd ignored. They never meant to give me anything. They just wanted to look good, and get their money back later. Life slowly went back to normal until one Sunday when Aunt Melanie showed up at my house with her usual fake smile and her terrible fruitcake. She didn't even knock properly. She just walked right in, acting like everything was normal. "Ida, sweetheart," she chirped, "how's married life?" I forced a smile. I hadn't seen her in a while, but I knew she was just fishing for gossip. "Want some coffee?" I asked. "Oh yes, dear, then we can really catch up," she said, settling herself into my living room like she owned it. She got right to it. "So, how are your parents?" I pretended to be busy at the coffee machine. "I wouldn't know," I said. "What do you mean?" she asked, shocked. "They're your parents." "I don't talk to them anymore," I said as I handed her the coffee. She leaned forward, eyes wide. "But why? They gave you that beautiful wedding." "I'd rather not talk about it," I said firmly. A few days later, I got flooded with notifications. Aunt Melanie had posted on Facebook, saying how ungrateful kids like me were. She made it sound like I cut my parents off for no reason and called me disrespectful. Lots of distant relatives jumped in to agree, calling me spoiled and selfish. The worst part was seeing my mother's comment under the post, "Some children are grateful, some aren't." You can really tell the difference between my eldest and youngest daughters. That stung more than anything. After reading it over and over, something inside me snapped. "Enough," I said out loud. Connor looked at me in surprise. I pulled out the photo of the check I had written for $165,000 and wrote my own Facebook post. "Since everyone wants to talk about my wedding, here's the truth. I planned a small $33,000 wedding that I was going to pay for myself. My parents insisted on a big fancy one and promised to pay for it, just like they did for Teresa. A week after the wedding, they sent me this bill for $165,000, which we paid with our house savings. That's why I don't talk to them anymore." I hit post before I could change my mind. The comments changed fast. People who had called me ungrateful now saw the truth. Aunt Melanie's post blew up with people telling her to take it down. Then Grandma called me. Her voice sounded tight. "Ida, is this true?" I told her everything, how my parents promised to pay and then stuck us with the bill. There was a long silence on the phone. Then Grandma spoke, sounding angry but calm. "Don't worry about them anymore, Ida," she said. "I'll handle this." "Grandma, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," she said firmly. "They've treated you badly for too long. This is enough." After we hung up, I blocked my parents on my phone and social media. I was done with them for good. A week later, there was a loud knock on my door. I opened it to find my mom, red-faced and furious. "How dare you post that?" she yelled, pushing past me. "You ruined everything. Your grandmother changed her will. She's giving you almost everything, her house, her money. Teresa only gets a little, and we get nothing. This is your fault." For once, I stayed calm. "You took out a second mortgage for Teresa's wedding and planned to pay it off with Grandma's money, didn't you?" Mom's face showed I was right. "Yes, and now we're in debt because of you." I laughed, which only made her angrier. "You just got $165,000 from me. That should help." "We already spent that," she snapped. "You need to fix this. Tell Grandma we made up." "No," I said simply. "You owe us this." "I don't owe you anything," I said, my voice strong. I opened the door and motioned for her to leave. When she didn't move, I guided her out and locked the door behind her. She banged and yelled for a while, but I didn't open it. The next day, Teresa called. "How could you do this?" she yelled. "Mom and Dad gave you so much." "No," I told her calmly. "They gave you everything. I was just their backup plan." She called me heartless and hung up. I knew then I'd lost her too, but I felt free. Now Grandma comes over every Sunday. We talk all the time. Some people ask if I miss my family. The truth is, I miss the family I wish I'd had, not the one I actually did. In the end, cutting them off hurt, but it also set me free. I finally put myself first, and I'm building a life with people who truly care, and that's enough.